Welcome, everybody, to the Heart of the Artist. We've had a little bit of a rough start this morning, but I think we are well on our way. And I'm so excited because my guest today is my dear friend, an amazing woman, Stacy Dyson. Not only do I get to interview her after, I guess, a 2 year time since we had our first interview, but today is her birthday. And it is also the release of her new book. So it is a pretty fantastic day. And she just received delivery of a cake that I had Uber Eats send to her. So we're gonna sing her happy birthday. So here we go.
You
Three,
forget to make a
two,
wish,
one.
Stacy. Make a wish.
Happy birthday
Birthday
to
to
you.
you.
Happy
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 birthday
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 to
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 you.
you.
It's
you.
your
Happy
birthday.
Happy
birthday,
Happy
birthday,
birthday,
dear
dear
Stacy.
Stacy.
It's your birthday.
Happy
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 birthday
birthday
Happy
birthday
to
birthday.
you.
to
to you.
you.
Happy birthday.
And many more.
Oh, I bet there's like a
Happy
delay, isn't there,
birthday.
Nemo? Isn't there probably a delay from all of our signals?
Almost certainly, yes. We probably thought we were all perfectly in time, yes.
No, you weren't, but it was lovely anyway. Thank you. I was hearing about six, seven different voices, but it's fine.
All right, and now the black people, happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
Oh,
You.
I thought it was Happy Born Day.
Happy born day. And it's happy book day, happy birthday, happy book day,
Happy
and happy
Happy
Heart of the
birthday
book
to
Artist
day.
you.
day. So all good things going on. Lots of good stuff.
Mhm.
So, Stacy, you are on the hot seat again, something that is not your normal place. Normally, you are the one putting others in the hot seat. And so we get to do that with you today. But thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited for you to have this new book drop on your birthday. So tell us a little bit about this book and what was its genesis and what are your expectations for it?
Let's start with the third question first. My expectations for it are a Pulitzer or a Nobel, either one. I'm not picky. Um, as far as its genesis, this was actually a book that I had meant to write almost 3 years ago. It doesn't normally take once I decide on the theme for a book. It doesn't normally take me that long, but this one, because of things that were happening in my life, took 3 years. It's not the book that I meant to write. This was supposed to be a continuation of my first book, my first, what my nephews call real book, Lovely and Suffering. Um, but things in life kept happening. I had to keep moving. I got sick. I just all sorts of horrible things were going on. Um, there's some good stuff in there too. So it then just became a book about different. First, it started out as a book about loss because I was losing so much. I was losing my health. I was losing a place to live. I was losing just, pick something and I was losing it. And then there was a slight shift in, I don't know whether it was thinking or whatever. Then it became a book about journeys. And then it suddenly occurred to me, I've been doing this all my life. I've been moving in one way or another all my life. And if it wasn't physically, it was spiritually. If it wasn't spiritual, it was emotional. If it wasn't emotional, it was mental. So I'm, dyed in the wool nomad. I don't know how to not move. So when I was looking for a title for the book, I was like, well, everything in life moves. And then something went off my head and said the sun doesn't. So the book is called Because the Sun Would Not Move.
I love the symbolism of that. And I love the fact that you are an Aquarius, which is an air sign, and air is constantly moving. And that dovetails so beautifully with the life experiences that you've had. Um, I have to believe that someone, maybe an earth sign, if an earth sign had been a part of the Dyson tribe, um, moving around as you guys did, that they might not have adapted so well to it. But I mean, you're like a duck in water, you're a bird in the air.
I mean, the 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 earthly right of this is that, my dad was military. I was going to move anyway. It's not like I had a choice. And I tell people all the time, there was never, I don't remember being in any school for more than 6 months up until I was 15. Moving is what we did. I always had a blast doing it. When I got older, I realized that my parents went way out of their way to make sure we were having a good time so that it wasn't, triggering a traumatic or anything else.
I went back and watched our first interview, and I'm always fascinated when you talk about your family, and in particularly your dad. I mean, um, he's just such an interesting figure.
Mhm.
And I think about how, there are kids who are not paired well personality wise with their parents. And then there are kids who are just paired so beautifully. And I have to think that maybe you were blessed in that way, because when you talk about your parents and you talk about your childhood, um, I just get that sense that you really were, you were just bumping right along with all of those experiences. Like, it was a grand adventure.
Well, it was. And as I say, it took me a while, until I was an adult to figure out that my parents killed themselves to make sure that's what we saw it as.
Hmm.
Because my father had traveled quite a bit, but my mother had never really traveled at all. And so they were really, really careful to make it all seem, like fun. It was like, you know, you would get kids, other kids that I went to school with who would say, "Oh, we have to move again. This is such a bummer." If I went home and mom said, "Okay, we're moving," or dad said, "Okay, we're moving," I'm like, mellow. Okay. Because that meant singing in the back of the car and hours of books and being able to see things. Um, Being able to, I've had people tell me, I've lived in the same place my whole life. Dear Heavenly God, how did you survive? That would have driven me completely insane. That's not, even when I had the choice to stay in one place, that was never ever something that I wanted to do. Now there have been places where I wanted to stay for a long time, places that I wanted to go back to. The idea of never traveling outside that limited circumference, I would have died.
Speaking of music and books, in the first interview, I think I asked you a question about what were the earliest books and music you remember loving as a kid. Do you remember the book that you told me about?
I don't.
It was Blueberries
There,
for Sal.
it was what?
Blueberries for Sal.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, that book is, when if one of my sisters was reading a book, that meant we were all reading a book for the most part. Blueberries for Sal. I remember going to the library and checking that out for my nephews. I wanted that to be their first book. And I don't even know if it's still in print. I just remember it made such a mad impression on me, mostly, quite honestly, because I was fascinated by the fact that bears ate blueberries, which, I did not know that. The other thing is that all the illustrations were done in um, blueberry blue ink. So, there was that. the fact that I still remember the basic storyline is astonishing because there have been a lot of books since Blueberries for Sal.
Well, your first edition copy is supposed to be delivered on Tuesday.
Oh,
I found a copy. One of the, I think it's the first edition. It was published in 1948. And I thought that would be another fun little birthday gift for you. So that's on the way too.
oh, thank you, honey. That's awfully sweet.
I got a kick out of that. It is still in print. Not only is it in print, there's a Blueberries for Sal cookbook out there,
Okay.
of all
Which is,
things.
all of which is really interesting for me personally. I hate blueberries.
I wondered about that. I had a
I mean, we're
feeling. I was
we're
like,
not
you know, I bet
talking a
she doesn't
mild
even like
dislike. We're
blueberries.
talking I loathe and despise blueberries. They do nothing for me.
Love it. I knew it. I knew. I just had this instinct. I was like, she doesn't like blueberries. I'll guarantee it. If I ask her, do you like blueberries? She's gonna tell me no. Because I almost bought you like a 5 pound bag of blueberries and had it shipped to you.
And I would have
And I was like,
said,
what if
"Oh,
I do
how
that?
sweet,"
She
and it would
doesn't.
have gone right to the closest homeless shelter.
That's awesome. So this book took you 3 years to write. What are some of the themes that you're dealing with? Were you dealing directly with all of the things that you were going through during this time?
Most of them, yeah. The big thing that I was dealing with was again having to move. Um, I would start out in a place and get comfortable or think I was getting comfortable, and then I'd have to move again. And that's fine. Okay. But during the 3 years, this particular space of 3 years where it was happening, it was really uncomfortable and usually unfortunate. There were no moves that I was saying, oh, I'd like to be in that place, except for the very, very last one, the last one here to New Mexico. That was my choice. But the ones before that, for the 3 years preceding that, were not. So, there was that. There were a ton of emotional moves. Um, this time, thank God, not complicated by falling in and out of love because a person can only have so much fun, you know. So I didn't have that to worry about. But mental things that I was mental moves that I had to make. Um, going from one of the biggest ones was going from or going into Medicare of all things. That was a huge emotional pain. Um, for about a year and a half, I was living in a place that kept me safe, but that's all it did. So there was that to deal with. I was trying to get and make sure that Tesoro stayed up and running. That was a huge mental um, sort of a thing. The physical things, I had to deal with my eyes. I had to deal with my arthritis. All this stuff was going on. So the book talks about that. And then, of course, there was all the fun that we're all having politically. What people don't seem to realize is, in a lot of ways, first of all, Black women saw it coming. We warned people this is coming. And now everybody's going, why didn't somebody tell us? We did. Y'all didn't listen. But we're still having to deal with, historically, Black women have to deal with um, backdraft in a whole lot of different ways. That requires a whole lot of movement just to stay in one place, really. You know, keep yourself together, really. So that move was going on. And then the whole spiritual move. I say somewhere in the book, and I've said it before, I never lost my faith, but it got, you know, shaken up very, very often and very, very hard. Said I never lost it, but there were times it was like, Lord, why are we doing this? Why am I having to do this? So the Lord and I were never not on speaking terms. It just wasn't always a pleasant conversation.
As as I've been sitting here listening to you, I've been thinking about the difference between feeling like I am at the whim of the universe versus feeling like I am a victim of the universe. And I don't perceive that victimhood is in your makeup. How would you characterize what you've been through? Does at the whim of,
No, not really. It's just, shit happens. Um, it's not anything that I wasn't, thanks to my faith, my parents, all this. It's not anything that I couldn't handle. It's not anything that I wasn't prepared for in one way or the other. Sometimes I had to dig a little bit deeper than I had planned to find that baseline. Um, no, victimhood is not in my makeup, or identifying myself as such is not a makeup. Now, I've been accused of that, of making myself seem a victim when I just talk about um, the things that I go through as a woman, as a Black woman on a day-to-day basis. And I've had people say, "Why are you being a victim?" I'm not. I'm just telling you my life. Okay. So the whole idea of being a victim as such is not only untrue, it's distasteful. That's not who I am. I tell the truth. Sometimes that's if that sounds like victimhood to somebody else, I am not responsible for how other people interpret what I'm saying. Other people's ideas of, well, you're making yourself a victim. According to whom? If it's according to you, then it's irrelevant. If it's according to the world, who does not know or may not see my circumstances as a woman and a Black woman, then it's irrelevant. As far as at the whim of, um, there are days, yes, where I think God and Saint Peter sit down and God goes, Pete, check out what I'm about to do. Let's see how she handles this one. Um, I'm at that whim. Yeah, certainly. I told somebody once, the angels sit down and take bets on my life sometimes. So at that whim, to an extent, yeah, but not anybody else's, not anybody human, certainly.
but when I think about you in a broader theme, I do feel like life presents us with the tests that we need in order to meet the challenges of the future. You started out a military child. Your dad taught you to be a leader. You are a protector of women. You have set up an organization to help create safe spaces for women and prevent victimization from occurring to others. And I've wondered, and again, thinking about everything and preparing for this interview, I started to think about maybe she was meant to go through all of this because she needed to be forged to be ready for what's ahead.
I don't know if it's anything that deep. I think you're born who you are and you either run with it or you don't. I decided to run with it. I tell people all the time that I'm really, really lucky because I'm one of the few people in the world who gets to do exactly what she was born to do. Now, why I'm supposed to be doing this, I could not possibly tell you. And the way that it has manifested itself is most certainly not anything I could have expected. Um, I also know I was raised with the idea of, with right comes responsibility. Okay. I lucked out. Okay. I lucked out with a very, very good childhood and parents who knew what the hell they were doing, and tons of books and always music and really, really great examples from other people in my life, people that I met, um, teachers, folks like that. So it's clear to me that I was supposed to be doing something in the world, for trying to make change, make a difference in the world. Just the way that it happened was, I don't think this is not what I had in mind. Okay. Because I originally thought my way to make a difference in the world was to be a doctor. Um, that would have been a disaster for humans. Okay. So that was not going to be a good idea. Mostly because, okay, here's the deal. I wanted to be, because I wasn't just going to be any old, general practitioner, that's okay. I was going to be a pediatric surgeon, okay, spurred on by some book that I now cannot remember, but that was the plan. Two things happened. Um, because I took the classes, all the way through high school, with the biology and the chemistry, all of this, calculus, which I still don't understand, but somehow managed to pass. The thing that defeated me um, in school was theoretical chemistry. Okay, I still don't understand a bit of it. I don't know how it works, but it was a required class. I was going to have to take it. And I went to extra tutoring. I stayed behind class and asked questions. I went before school and worked with the teacher. I just couldn't get it. And so finally, after I had failed yet another, you know, it wasn't even a practice exam. It was just she gave me like three questions and I couldn't answer any of them. And I remember this lady looking at me and saying, with all the kindness possible, honey, if God comes down from the heavens with a golden slide rule, you will still never pass this class. So it was like, okay. So that was one. I couldn't handle, I wouldn't be able to handle the course. So the other thing, even though I've been a governess, I've been a nanny, I've babysat kids for years, I don't particularly care for small children, which is a drawback in a pediatric surgeon. So it's like, okay, I need to find something else to do. Um, so then the next push was journalism. Words I could do, writing I could do, and again, and that was easy for me. Those courses were easy for me. But what a lot of folks don't know is that the whole time I was poeting. I started writing poetry when I was 5. I thought everybody did it. This is like breathing in water to me. It's like, okay, whatever. And then um, I'm sitting working on a play, actually. I was at university. I'm sitting in my kitchen. I'm working on a play. And yes, okay, this is where, people go, oh, please, or, start making the woo woo sound or whatever. I actually did hear a voice say, this is what you're supposed to be doing. So that's what I started doing.
Okay.
The poetry became how shall I say? I'm not going to say overwhelming because it was never overwhelming. It was just overriding.
I want to hear about this play.
The play was called what I had seen Entezaki Shengi's play for colored girls who have considered suicide when the rainbow is enough.
Hmm.
And that just like set off fireworks in my head. So I ended up writing a play, 5 voices. Every play that I've written always has 5 people in it because 5 and variations of 5 are lucky. So 5 women, and it was called um, Fanny's Girls, a 411 and 5-part attitude. And it was based on a quote that I had found that basically said, the black woman may be, or actually it said the color girl. The color girl may be, charming, um, fascinating, intelligent, da 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 da, but she will never be in vogue. And this was, I think that came from like 1934 or something. I can't remember the actual dates. And so basically what you have are, these black women who are sitting around, and one of them actually says, I don't know about y'all, but I intend to be in fashion by the end of this show. Now, that was the latest one. The very, very first play, the one that you're talking about, that one was, again, five women talking about who it was they wanted to be and how they moved in the world. And, again, based on um, colored girls who have considered suicide. So it was some dialogue, a lot of poetry. The poems in that eventually made a leap to when I started recording, made a leap to CD. Some of them did. But, again, I was still this whole time. Okay. I was still thinking when I did that first play, the very, very first one, um, I was still thinking I was going to be a journalist because it was the only way that I could think of to contribute. And because, let's face it, poets in this country are not taken seriously. You know, because people say, how do people react when you tell them you're a poet? It depends on where in the world I am, who I'm talking to. If I'm speaking to somebody from Europe, say, and I say I'm a poet, they go, "Oh, wow, that's really, fascinating. Where can I find you? Where da 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 da." In a lot of places here in the United States, if I say I'm a poet, they say, "No, your real job." Or I I had a dental tech. She chose the worst possible time. I'm in there to get a wisdom tooth taken out. Okay. And I was at that time severely dental phobic. So I'm shaking and I'm just, so the tech is trying to calm me down. And so, we're chatting and said, well, what do you do? I'm a poet. She goes, oh, how nice. She's monitoring my blood pressure. She's, oh, that's really nice. And then she looks me dead in the face and said, so you play around and get paid for it. And then she looked back and she said, oh my goodness, there's a leap in your blood pressure. We really have to calm you down. I've gotten that reaction on, this is something that you do. You just play around with what is your real job. When I was younger, I was offended by that for the last, I don't know, 30 years or so. I just look at them like they're ignorant or I laugh. If I'm feeling really salty, I will look them dead in the eye and say, I've been training for my job since I was 5. When did you start training for yours?
Nice. I remember you saying that your dad was your biggest fan.
Mhm.
I love that.
Daddy understood what I was doing. Daddy does understand what I'm doing. Um, my father was one of the guys who, stood on the street corner and broke down, 4, 5, 6 part harmony with his boys. So, he was big into all kinds of music. He was big into my father was like me. He always wanted to go and see things. The children's story, Ricky Tikki Tavi. Okay. Okay. Where Ricky Tikki's motto is run and find out. That was my dad. Okay. Find out, learn things, go places, meet people, do all of that. And so he understood what I was doing. And so he told me once, this doesn't surprise me at all. He says, I love what you're doing. I think it's great. If you're asking me if it surprises me, no.
Have you ever done anything as an adult that your parents wouldn't have been proud of?
Um, no, because I never really saw the point. You know, I mean, even when I was a teenager, I didn't. Because when I was a teenager, I remember sitting and thinking, when I get out of the house or when I turn 18, I can do whatever the frick I want. So I just, I behaved myself. And besides what other people saw as rebellious or, troublemaking, there was no interest in that for me. No, I had um, I had friends who would get grounded, for staying out all night or, joy. Like, why? I have stuff to do. Okay. When I got out on my own, it was like, okay, now I can do whatever it is I want. I don't have to answer to anybody. There was nothing that interested me. Um, and then, the older I got, it was, I'd look at other people, doing things that were supposed to be, you know, outlaw behavior or whatever. Like, real, that's what gets you off. Okay. Doesn't do a thing for me. And if something doesn't, it doesn't do anything for me, I just don't bother. If it doesn't interest me or excite me, why bother? There are things that I have done, um, just my life in general. I think I'm a fairly, what people would say, see as a moral person. I've done a ton of things or not done a ton of things that my mother would have liked, as far as my mother would hate the fact that I'm still not married, and don't have any great burning plans to be. The fact that I didn't want to have children, that was a disappointment. My mother and both my parents were looking forward to that. That wasn't going to happen. Um, so there have been societal things, I guess, that they were disappointed by or didn't expect me or whatever. But as far as, like the big things, no, there hasn't been anything. Mostly because whether I like it or not, for most of my life, I've been a role model, which is a mindset that I embrace and try and live up to. The other thing is that I'm not going to do anything, and I mean anything, to dishonor my family name. It just will not happen.
I remember in our first interview, you talked about one of the greatest gifts that your parents had given you was in teaching you your worth, that you grow up knowing that you have value as a person and that you've never been interested in compromising that value. Do you feel like that is a thing that is women in general struggle to have in their lives?
I think depending on where you are in the world, in one way or another, everybody struggles with that. I know that both my parents did their very, very best to keep that particular wolf away from the door. They didn't want their girls growing up thinking that they were incapable of anything. I had, because I remember standing in um, a girlfriend's living room talking to her dad, and he took time out of his busy schedule with me there to, give her hell about, how she wasn't, fulfilling obligations and how this was, this and that and the other thing were expected of her and all of this. And I'm standing there and I'm thinking, first of all, why is he doing this in front of me? Well, I figured out later why he was doing it in front of me. It was just his, he figured, I'll shame her in front of her girlfriends and, that foolishness. Um, the whole idea of self-worth, that was spoon fed to me, along with that was bottle fed to me. That came through my parents' blood and bones. I was never ever expected to be anything else but the best thing that I could possibly be. And I'm human. There were times I disappointed. Promise you. Didn't last for very long. And seriously, I mean, can't even remember what it was that I did. But my sisters and I used to joke about this because my father could not spank his girls. He just couldn't. Okay. With dad, if you stuck out your lower lip and it quivered a little, that he was destroyed. That was it. So he wouldn't spank us, but he would give us the look. Okay. And that look said, I am embarrassed by you. I'm ashamed of you. You have just put a mark against the family name. I can't believe it was loaded. Okay. And I remember going to my mother once and saying, could you just make him spank me, please? I can't handle being looked at like that. It was horrible. My mother, no problem with the spanking, and the things like that. But the whole self-worth, self-image thing said that was you know, that was breathed into me. That was, like I said, it was in the bottles that I drank. It was in, the baby food that it was spoon fed to me from the time that I was born, actually a little bit before. You are expected to be something. This is what you're worth. Don't disappoint. Not just us. Don't disappoint yourself. Have I been able to cling through that my whole entire life? No. Like I said, I'm human. There have been times where it's just like, you have those conversations with yourself. And there have been times where it's like, what is wrong with you? You know, you are complete and total crap today. You did this thing, you did that thing, but it's not very often. Thank you, Lord. And it doesn't last for very long, mostly because I don't have the patience for it. I was like, what the hell do you mean you're planning on letting down yourself, your family name, your own values, your own ideas? What the hell do you mean you're thinking of doing that? Yeah, no, that's not working.
I remember you telling me a story about one time when you were about to go on stage and for whatever reason you were nervous and you I think your dad said to you, go do your job.
Yeah. Um, I was getting ready to do a TED talk. The lead up to it had been absolutely disastrous. Um, they they axed the outfit that I was going to wear, color what the day before they sent out. These are colors that we would like for you not to wear on camera. And every single color on that was a color that I was planning on wearing. So I had to go in a rainstorm at 9 o'clock at night to a store that I never shopped at because it was the only one open, get a new outfit, get on the train to get to my motel where I'm spending the night before I go to the show. I'm halfway there. Another show that I was in sends me a reminder. Remember that you have to be in all white for our show. And I had to be there in half an hour. Had to go to another store, get an all white outfit, get to that show, come back. I'm sitting in the hotel trying, feverishly, to curl my hair. The outfit that I had chosen had sequins on it because it was the only thing I was able to find. I'm picking off sequins. I'm doing, this makeup, so I'm doing all of this stuff. And then it's like, okay, I got this together. I'm ready to go. And then I'm going over the poem that I was going to do, and this is crap. I can't do this. This will not fit. This is completely wrong. It was like, okay, take a minute. A new poem had dropped in. I don't know from where. I went ahead. I wrote it down. I did not have a laptop at that point, and there was no word processor or typewriter anywhere available. So I'm writing this out as quickly as I can by hand. I get to the venue and I'm still feverishly, like now I'm writing it out in block print so it's big enough to read while I'm on stage. And then they say, we've got to put you in makeup. I don't wear makeup. So then it was a 25. I said, I don't wear it. Well, you're going to need it. I don't wear it, but you're going to need it. Okay. Now I realize now, I realized then that they put a minimal amount of makeup on me, but my face felt like a kabuki mask. I'm in an outfit. I never go on stage in new clothes. I'm in an outfit that is brand new. So I don't know, what's going to happen because of the sewing that I had to do. Lord, something may, drop off, fly away. I don't know what the heck is going on. It's a big deal. It's a TEDx talk. I am nervous. I'm shaking. Knees, palms are wet, the whole deal. And then they come to me and they say, we're running an hour and a half behind. We might have to cut your slot. I said, okay. So they said, we have a choice. We can either put you on or we can put it was a short film that they were wanting to show about um, female mutilation still going on in certain countries. I said, that's more important. Cut me if you have to. No, 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 we're not going to do that. I said, look, if we're talking about which one the audience needs to be exposed to more, they need to see that film. Cut my slot. They go back and forth for, and finally they come back to me. Because first they came back to me and they said, well, yeah, we might have to do that. Then they come back and say, we're going to go ahead. We're going to go and put you on. We'll switch the film up with something else that comes on later on in the afternoon. You need to be on stage in 15 minutes. Great. I'm still trying to block write a freaking poem so I can read it. So now I'm standing out in the hallway in an outfit that I am not used to, in a hairstyle that I'm not real sure of, with makeup on my face, with a brand new, I had only read it once, just, out loud poem. I'm shaking. I'm sick as a dog to my stomach. And I can't do this. I'm gonna screw it up. And I heard my father in my ear say, girl, get out there and do your job. That's what got me through. Okay. Um, so that, the people talk all the time about the ancestors sending them messages. My ancestors get right up in my ears and say, excuse me, aren't you supposed to be doing something? And make sure you don't jack up the family name while you're doing it, or we'll come and talk to you later on. Nobody wants to have those conversations.
Well, in typical Heart of the Artist fashion, I had to cry. That just, I picture you guys as like a military unit, like you're in country, y'all are like your own little military unit. What was it like having grown up in that dynamic of interaction to go to college where I'm assuming it was very different from what you would have experienced previously?
It was different only in the fact that there was more privacy at university. Um, Growing up as a military kid, in my experience anyway, was great. Is that I had four sisters, so that meant there was always somebody to play with, always somebody to steal clothes from. Um, there were times, a lot of the times, where not only was I in the same school as one of my sisters, if not, two of them, I was in the same class once or twice because I have a sister who's a year younger and a sister who's a year older.
Mm.
So, the three of us were always, kind of in the same situations. And then my oldest sister, who was 6 years older than me, and my baby sister, who was 6 years younger than me. Okay. So, there was that. Same thing at home. There was always somebody to play with, fight with, hang out with, whatever. Um, because there were five of us and mom worked outside the home, my father and mother very early set up a roster of um, housework. Okay. So, you did a week of bathrooms, you did a week in the kitchen, you did whatever. It kept things moving and it got things done and it kept the house straight and it made life incredibly easy because you knew what you were supposed to be doing. Okay. And all of it didn't fall on one person. Okay. It also taught me, and I have been grateful for this my whole entire life, discipline. Okay. Even now, I have the habit of laying out my clothes the night before because that's what I was taught to do to save time. Because if you've got five girls and five girls, two adults, and two bathrooms, yeah, you got to be organized. Um, so there was plus we, for the most part, I mean, there were some huge differences. For the most part, we, kind of liked each other. It was fun hanging out. We talk about books and music, and things like that. When I was, I think, 8 or 9, my father built by hand clubhouse for the three of us. The me and my sisters who were, only a year apart in the back house. And etched above it was the Dysonettes. Okay, so I was a Dysonette, so I was, it was cool. Um, we even had, matching outfits, sunglasses, and there was a password. You could not get in, without the password. Um, as much, as we grew older, of course, different thoughts, different feelings on things. For the most part, backup. Okay. If something happened, you knew you had backup. It wasn't anything that you had to ask for or question or anything. It was just there. And again, we were all bound by the same thing. Dyson honor. There are things you do and things you don't. You don't go outside of that. You take it with you wherever it is that you are. Um, I was required to behave a certain way, not just because I was a Dyson girl, because I was a Black woman. And behaving the way sometimes that the world expects you to, and being Black woman, that carries its own problems and penalties. My big thing has always been try and at least leave a space so that the next person who comes into it doesn't have to deal with the mess. Make it look good, try and make it look easy, and keep doing it.
So, how did all of those lessons and experiences lead you to start Tesoro?
All of my career has been dedicated toward moving women forward. Um, it's not that I dislike men, it has nothing to do with that. It's just that I think women are superior. I've always thought that. Um, and I was never really happy with the way the world was working. And, I mean, you look around, it's like, who's in charge? Okay. Well, it's all these men and they're not doing it right. So let's go ahead and make places, spaces, ways forward that are women powered. So that's been my entire career. As far as Tesoro is concerned, I had started out with an idea for an organization called Cassandra, which was supposed to be an international network that would connect business women. Okay. I was doing tons of lecturing at the time on networking. Um, and so Cassandra was designed to bring in as many business women as possible, so that if you walked into an interview, or you walked into a new job or whatever, okay, you would, having been told, this is a, business we have something to do with, you could then identify yourself. You'd say, I'm Cassandra. And, that was like the key to the kingdom. I had started out with that idea, and then I had started thinking about expanding that worldwide into a helping sort of a network. Okay. Um, Say you're traveling in, the south of France. It's a rainstorm. Okay. Your car is not working. Your French is not great. Okay. But you're Cassandra. So you have, there's, we had a whole, this thing that we were putting together. You call, your person, you say, I'm Cassandra. This is the problem. And then the connections and the networking starts. So that was the general idea, but I couldn't really make it, go anywhere. I didn't have the patience to actually make it go anywhere. It might still happen. And then I started thinking, and what actually um, sort of tipped it toward poets was, we've all heard the phrase, the Poets Network. It's like poets are supposed to be able to read each other's minds, and we connect in all these weird places and all this sort of thing. And I thought, how cool would it be, to get together all of these top flight poets and connect them, and, have them, giving them backup, giving them support, not just for when they're on stage. Anybody can support you when you're on stage. Okay. But maybe you're having a problem with your kids. Maybe um, you've got an exam you want to take, and you don't understand the course material and you need help, all this sort of thing. And I had done a couple of shows, I'm sorry, a couple of arts consortiums before that. First, there was Dragon Swing. Okay. I was in Colorado Springs, and I started collecting poets, all women. That was the important thing. Okay. Dragon Swing had to fold. Um, so then I moved when I got to California, it was like, I'm never doing this again. I'm done. It's too much work. Da, 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 da. And within about a month, I had started Page the Stage, Women's Words, again, all women. Okay. Making connections. So when it got time to, like, when I moved moved again, it was like when Page the Stage folded. I was like, okay, that's it. I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. Okay. But then I started meeting, because, we were moving into the pandemic and doing all that. And I started meeting all of these unbelievable women poets from all over the world. And it's just like, okay, you're going to have to do this again. You might as well just just give it up. You're going to have to do it again. And then I started thinking about, okay, so there was that idea, these connections. And then there was the Cassandra idea. And so I'm like, let's borrow a little bit from that and start making these connections um, internationally, but also make sure that people know, that the women involved know, it's not just about the poetry, because it's never just about the poetry. That and a nickel will get you to the corner. Okay. Backup. There's got to be backup. And one of the most gratifying things still for me to do is to plug into, some random Zoom anywhere, and have a member of Tesoro get on the mic and, watch the chat light up. Okay. From other Tesoro women who are in the house, not to participate, just to give their sister back. I love that. That makes my whole entire idea worth it to me, because here's this woman, maybe nobody else in the world will ever hear her, but we know who you are, and we're here to give you back up. That is a huge thing for me. the more that I can make that happen, the better it is. Not for me, the better it is for keeping things moving in the world the way they're supposed to, the way they need to. People feeling connected, people feeling like they have backup. That's the big thing. If I get a couple of brownie points in my heavenly crown for it, fantastic. If I don't, fantastic. That wasn't the point. If I wanted to glorify myself, I'm doing all this stuff for me. That was never the point.
So, where do you see yourself in the next couple of years? What's on the agenda?
Nothing different from what I've been doing my whole entire life. There'll be another book. Like I said, I'm working on it right now. The new one actually has a title. Um, the one that I'm working on now is called Jesus and Ice Cream. Okay. So they'll be based on something, and I can't remember if I made this up or if I read it from somebody else. I really can't remember. But the saying is Jesus and ice cream. What one doesn't fix, the other will. Okay. So I'll be touring with Jesus and ice cream or whatever comes after it. I would love to write another play. There's been one in my head called August 5000 for, gosh, probably about 10 years now. That's a play that needs to get written. If that's ever going to happen, I don't know, but it'd be nice to have a play out there. Um, I need to get back to my voice has gone through some changes. Um, I'm not sure what the physical reason is. Um, but I need to, because it's important for what it is that I'm doing, I need to get back into recording because I used to record CDs all the time. Um, so that needs to happen again. What I would like to do, and one of the things that I really, really want to do, one of the things that I need to do is is run around. I want to, go to this country and that country and do my poetry and that all that stuff is great. Politically, right now, in a couple of years, that might not, in a couple of months, that might not be a possibility. I could still get the work out there, yeah, but it's for instance, I got invited to do my first gig in Canada. Okay, but that's not until September. I may not be allowed in Canada in September. I'm supposed to be, or rather November, it's supposed to be. I'm supposed to be in Colombia, in South America, in September. Even if I'm allowed to go down there, who knows if I'll be able to come back. It's, this is, this is something that I never, ever, like most of the people here, never thought I would even have to think about or deal with. But there's a very, very good chance that all of this moving around that I want to do, all this running around that I want to do, I won't be able to. In a perfect world, yeah, I'd hop on a train or a plane tomorrow, and that's what I'd be spending. There was a year where I packed my suitcase in April and never unpacked until nearly the end of October. I was, there's a joke that I have, with some of my friends. I tell them, you just go home to visit your clothes. That's what I was doing. I'd come home, unpack, what needed, laundry and stuff like that, do my laundry, pack right back out, and be gone again in 48 hours. I had a blast. I would love to do that again. Whether or not I'm going to be permitted to, able to, who knows right now.
Well, FYI, I have a friend who lives in Colombia. So if you go down there and you get stuck,
Oh, so do I. I mean, one of our Tesoro members, who's also my publisher, lives in Colombia. That's why I'm
oh,
going there.
fantastic.
I mean, quite one of the things that I love is just about anywhere I go, we've got a Tesoro woman.
What countries are represented now? I mean,
Okay, roll call. I always have to think. Okay, let me. Okay,
but
okay. So we have members all over the United States. First of all, we have members in Colombia, Canada, England, Portugal, Australia, South Africa.
pretty much covered in all the time zones.
Pretty much. We don't have anybody in Antarctica yet. Um, I'll kind of have to wait and see. I actually, when I was running Page the Stage, I was telling my second in command one day, we've got somebody, everywhere but Antarctica. Ha 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 ha. That very afternoon, I walked into an office for a place called Imagination Celebration, which was a creative space that did things. And my appointment, the woman that I was there to meet was running late. So I'm sitting there in the waiting room, and there's another woman sitting there. We get to chatting, and she says, I'm getting ready to travel." She said, I saw the announcement about your show. I'd love to come and see it, but I'm getting ready to travel." And I said, "Oh, where are you going?" And she said, "Antarctica." I'm part of a group that they were sending artists and scientists there for, I think, a year or something like that. If I'd only seized my chance, we would have been represented there. Um, haven't found anybody who's going lately, but things change. I
You
think
could,
we have folks in, we don't have anybody in Asia yet, but the year just started. So, hey,
I think it would be fun to have a Tesoro vent on top of Frying Pan Tower.
okay.
It's a it's an some kind of structure in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. It's like a freestanding thing, and this rich guy bought it, and they do ecotourism, and you can go and like help fix it up. And you can only get there by helicopter or by boat because it's, in the middle of the ocean, and they have to get
Okay.
you up to the top of the tower in a sling.
Okay. Okay. No, 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 no. I have a major thing about heights, so that's not happening. But lovely suggestion. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Um, what I would really like to do is I've been wanting to for almost since this got started to get all of us together in one place or just have like a huge blowout, workshop performance festival sort of a thing going on. When we were smaller, that was a little bit more possible, but right now we have an excess of 50 members
Mhm.
worldwide. And that, as you say, that's a lot of time zones. That's a lot of airfare. That's a lot of hotel rooms. That's a lot of, and again, due to the political situation and the fact that I have not yet won the lottery, funding for that is an ish. It's gonna be. We are, um, by virtue of the Republican Party, completely cut off from applying for federal funding. Um, the National Endowment for the Arts is and has been for probably the last, gosh, longer than 15 years, just a pen stroke away from being eliminated because the NEA controls funding, and I know you know this, for most of the United States and the regional art sports and things like that, they're getting slammed. So getting funding from them, you know, that's difficult and precarious. Even regional art sports, local art sports, they're all feeling the pinch, and the usual grantors that everybody runs to, the big boys that everybody runs to, they're getting tagged left, right, and sideways.
Mhm.
It's a mess. And so for a smaller organization, and yes, we're a smaller organization, even with 50 some members, to get a look in is almost impossible. I can sit here and write grants until my teeth fall out, but getting one, that's quite honestly, it used to be about skill, now it's about luck. And sometimes that luck is just who do you know who's, a member of the granting board. That being said, there are always car washes and bake sales. Hey,
And calendars.
and calendars. We was it not Page to Stage, Dragon's Wing. My second in command was an incredible face painter. I mean, just absolutely gorgeous body art. And that's one of the fundraisers that we did. She painted up everybody, in the colors of, I believe it was the colors of their birth month. And we did a calendar. So, here's me, for instance. She painted me up. They're not my birthday colors, but she painted me up as this gorgeous gold and green dragon.
Oh,
And then, above as I remember the calendar, above, the calendar, the month name and all of that was an excerpt from one of your poems. So yeah, it's doable. It can be done.
what is the value of poetry to society?
Um, well, look at it this way. The first thing anybody ever hears is poetry. It's, nursery rhymes, um, songs sung in the nursery, because poetry and music are the same thing. It's essential. You cannot, as far as I'm concerned, you cannot breathe without it. You cannot, if you look at the studies, you cannot develop without it. As far as what it's needed for, in a bigger sense, it's, how shall I say, it's a connecting point. It's a coping strategy. It's a therapy. It's, you name it, you can pretty much, tag onto it. But the big thing is that as a poet, you are required. You're not asked. It's not hinted at. You are required. It is mandatory for you to tell the truth. Period. If you're doing anything else, then you're not a poet. You're a really good liar. Okay? You tell the truth, and the world needs that. The fact that it's subjective, what in the world is it? But if people aren't clinging to the idea of the truth is important, we're done. That's it.
You ever see a time when you wouldn't be writing?
No. I mean, I don't. Somebody said to me once, um, there's the whole thing about, what happens when you die, and all of those connecting sort of questions, or connected sort of questions. My answer is always, and people have said to me, when do you think you're going to stop writing? My answer has always been about 15 years after I'm dead, maybe. The other thing, poets don't die. We just run out of ink. I'm nowhere close to out of ink.
No, you are not. They're talking about when you have to bury somebody, you have to pick out, an outfit for them. And I can see for you, it's like, we don't care about the clothes. She needs all of her favorite pens and about 15 notebooks in there with her.
Yes, but they have to be fine point black pens. Can't write with anything else. They have to be red covered college ruled, spiral bound notebooks. Because if it's anything else, I'm coming back to tell y'all you did it wrong.
Yes. Duly noted, my friend. Duly noted.
And please, somebody said, because this comes up, bury me in red. Okay. It's my favorite color. All the important things in my life are red. I want to be red from head to toe. Actually, you won't be burying me, but for the memorial, you can dress me in that. Um, I used to say when I was younger, like 2 years ago, um, I don't want to be buried. I want to be cremated and sprinkled all over Stevie Wonder. You know, okay. Or Morris Chestnut, or Antonio Banderas. I'm not picky. Um, so there are options. There are options, but the whole thing about when, um, even especially on my birthday. The older I get, I don't really think about that. One day, it'll be very simply, I'm here physically, and the next day will be, well, I'm not. It doesn't mean I'm not here. It just means you can't see me.
Well, I have a feeling that just like your dad has been for you, you will be the voice in many people's heads when you are no longer on this plane of
Oh, I'll
existence.
be annoying the hell out of y'all. I mean, that was my plan.
Do you have a copy of the book that you can show us, the cover art, show us what it looks like?
Not yet. It's on its way from the maker. Um, we did this thing at we only got the cover art in, I want to say, gosh, I don't think it was a month ago. And the book, is, as they say, ready for publication. It is published. It's there. It's out there, or it's supposed to be. This was
It
the date
is.
that I was promised. But
I
as far
checked
as having an
Amazon. It's
actual
there.
copy, because my publisher said to me, do you want, they'll send you like a preview copy of the book. And I said no, because then I'll have to measure, on my wall how big a hole I want to make with it when I throw it. Because I have been living with this book, like I said, for 3 years. And it was kind of like, love what I'm doing, but ugh, if I have to look at these poems one more time, and I think anybody who's done the editing process, especially on their own stuff, it's like, okay, so I'll go ahead and I'll read this poem for the 9,000th time. Am I happy it's out there? Yeah, I'm thrilled. I can't wait for everybody to get their hands on it. Um, but as far as a physical copy in my hands right now, not yet. It's on its way.
Well, that's pretty fantastic. And I can't wait to get my copy. I'm I've not placed the order yet, but I've got it in my shopping cart ready to rock and roll.
Well, nobody has yet. Um, One of the
It's
things
there.
that
It's on
we,
Amazon. I checked for you. It's there.
oh yeah, I know. They said I know it's out there. Um, one of the things that I'm doing is to um, defray or actually get rid of the publishing costs. Is I'm getting ready to run a campaign and kind of keep an eye out. There's still the campaign board is still, kind of crossing T's and dotting I's and doing all that stuff. But there'll be a campaign out there for people to be able to order copies of the book or public appearances, lectureships, workshops, whatever. Um, and so folks can order the book that way, or they can go to Amazon or Barnes and Noble, or, um, once it gets here, they can come to me and get a copy of it.
was actually an idea that I had talked about with Marissa at one point for Red or Green Books, and it was about contacting libraries because libraries usually have grant money to purchase books. And it was the idea of reaching out to libraries because you can find the local library, you can find their phone number online for any state, any county,
Mhm.
and asking them, would you like to buy this book? Have this in stock and sell it. So
And that's actually now, I think personally, that that's important, really, really important for folks to do. Mostly because, especially with poetry, um, you know, well, actually, with anything that's not, tech or anime, actually, circulation rates are down. If you, and even, before all of this started, it's like put that book wherever it is you can, put the poetry wherever it is you can. When I was living in, I think I was in Colorado Springs. Yeah. We actually did this thing where we would go into places where you wouldn't think poetry was going to be heard. Um, we did poetry in courtrooms. We did poetry in laundromats. We did poetry in the one in the bank was really fun. Um, so it's just think of the most unusual place. It's you are surprised. I was constantly surprised at how many people would come and say that was the coolest thing I ever saw, and then get into it. Um, Wherever it is, you can put the words. It's where you put them. Um, that's not always safe.
it's what
You
needs
do
to
it
be done.
anyway.
Go do your job.
Yeah. Because if we don't, nobody else is going to.
How would you like to close out today? Would you like to grace us with a poem from the new book?
From the new book, no, because I think y'all should be reading that from Jump
Okay.
Street.
The future book.
Um, the future book, yeah, I can read you
Jesus and ice cream. Ice cream and Jesus.
Jesus and Ice Cream,
Jesus and ice cream.
which has become, quite honestly, or is becoming my anthem, quite honestly. Um, and what's interesting is I cannot tell you where this poem came from. It just dropped into my head. It was like, oh, I've been waiting for you to, I've been waiting for you. And I remember sitting there after writing it going, okay, I see where this is going. Um, I clearly cannot, stop moving. So this is the next thing. When I was a little tiny girl falling and scraping my knees, getting cinder dust in my eye, too stupid to stay away from barbecue fires and camping flames. Whenever I was busy being childishly ignorant and got hurt, my mother would frown. Daddy would scold a little, but my Gran always pulled me to one side, wiped my face, gave me a spoon of chocolate mint or butter pecan or striped vanilla. That was my favorite. Made me say a little small prayer over it first. Remember, girl, all you ever need is Jesus and ice cream. But one doesn't fix, the other will. Gran's been gone for decades. I still hear her sometimes. Been hearing her a lot lately, the older I get. Life has been difficult for the world, for other people, for me. What we thought were certainties barely exist as ghosts of thought right now. Dying or breathing in pain, there is there is so much pain. Gasping for just a little small breath of something, anything, To keep them alive, I can't sing anymore. Some disagreement between my lungs and vocal cords. The sound is cracked, only fluted between my lips. If I'm sotto voce, it's not like before. No one would pay to hear me now. I cannot walk right. The infection from the flood in Baton Rouge crept inward and ate away at any grace I had. Bending the knee is no fancy descriptor of protest, is a fervent wish. One I gave away probably 10 years ago. One eye works perfectly. The other is scarred inside. Surgery would help, maybe, but not really change anything. I think I regret most my hands. I used to have the most beautiful hands. And now the fingers swell, ache if I type too long. Working with pen and ink has become a very bad joke. My doctor says I have a heart murmur. A nice enough woman, but a born liar. Because my heart has never murmured in all my life. It shouts, defies, works, and loves to the point of joy and exhaustion. It has never known how to be quiet. I am a Black woman in a country that is busily trying to kill my culture, crush my history, murder my hopes. They have been searching for centuries to find a way to break my back, my faith, my heart. Only my heart has succumbed, but never completely, and never for too long. The one thing that has no blemish, no mark, no chance of being quenched is my anger. That is bright and shiny new every moment, every hour, every second living under this present evil. I may forgive, but I never forget. I may seem to sleep in shadows sometimes, but I'm only biding time and planning, not hiding away. This life, this world has never hurt so much that I cannot heal myself, and anyone smart enough to believe in me. So keep all your nostrums and patents and pills. Keep your easy cures and quick fixes. Keep my name out of your mouth. I have my brains and faith. I have warrior's blood and a heart that cannot, will never be done for. I, I got Jesus and ice cream. And Grandma knew. Grandma always knew what would bring me through everything to the other side.
Thank you, Stacy. Happy
You are
Yeah,
birthday.
more than
that
welcome.
was absolute fire. Fire.
Thank you, honey.
Stacy, you lit it up. Holy shit, that was dope.
Jesus and ice cream. That's fantastic. Everybody feel free to unmute and wish Stacy happy birthday, offer congratulations, say hi, give her a hug.
Happy birthday!
Yeah, I loved all of that. Just sitting in here, getting the day ready, listening to you. That was just fantastic.
Always glad when
Congratulations.
it's sing sugar.
That was amazing. And I'm thankful I got to be a part of a little of that with the promo, and it was worth promoting.
You
Well,
guys have
thank
not
you.
met Rainstorm yet. Pam and Josh, you met on the TikTok the other day, and Josh is the one who did the video for your promo.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
cool.
Lovely.
Happy birthday, beautiful. And you are such an inspiration.
Well, thank you, darling. I appreciate that.
Now I should get out to the studio and get busy. You are an inspiration. Thank you. Love you
Anything for
from
you, honey.
Colorado.
Thank you for the love. You can keep the weather.
It's beautiful today.
Have you tasted your cake yet? I'm curious to see what it tastes like.
No, I have not, and let me, because I haven't eaten anything today, and I can't have sugar first thing, or I'll be sugar sick all day.
Yeah.
So after I've eaten something, I will try it then.
Well, thank you so much for doing this, for helping to resurrect the heart of the artist and for kicking it off. It's going to be a beautiful year, and am so looking forward to doing this under the Tesoro flag. We're going to have some fantastic ladies to talk to across the next 12 months.
Well, thank you, honey. They said you're a good interviewer. I had a great time.
We had a little bit of a funky start, but we got it rolling.
You know, as in life, as long as you keep moving forward, you're okay.
There you go. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Appreciate you taking the time to spend the day with us and to be here for Stacy to wish her happy birthday and congratulate her on her new book. Check that out on Amazon. It is there. You can find it. Search her name, Stacy Dyson, and you will see her complete oeuvre available for purchase.
Is there
And also
another
check out,
bookstore instead
you
of
can check
Amazon?
out Barnes and Noble. Actually, it's
Okay.
anywhere they sell books, you can order this book.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm
So
trying to
Barnes and
avoid.
Noble, if you want a signed copy, get a hold of me or wait
I
until the
do, I do,
fundraiser
I
comes.
do.
The fundraiser and the link for the fundraiser will be out hopefully within the next 3 days. And there are you can order it through that. You can order it through me directly. There are a million ways to get it. So
Sounds good.
All right. Well, this concludes our first episode. Unless there are any questions, please feel free
Not a question. I'm just happy that you resurrected the interviews.
to.
yeah, I
And this
always did
was
like this
absolutely
series.
awesome
So
to
I'm
be part
I'm
of.
thrilled that it's back. And I'm thrilled that you're doing it under our umbrella.
Absolutely. It's going to be great. All right. Well, this is all for our first episode of Tesoro sponsored Heart of the Artist. We've been talking with poet activist Stacy Dyson and dear friend and mentor to many of us. So we're thankful that you're here. We're thankful that you're still kicking. We're thankful that you got you some Jesus and ice cream. Take care, everybody. Much love. Until next time. End of the month, Heart of the Artist, round 2. Bye-bye.